The Daily Wire. We've all heard of it, usually involuntarily. Co-created and run by Ben Shapiro, who looks like if the word ascertain was a person, The Daily Wire is a website and news media company behind numerous shows, podcasts, and documentaries about pressing issues that people completely made up. However, they've started a new endeavor, which is helping to fulfill Shapiro's initial dream, to be a Hollywood hotshot.
You talk about having conceived of the plot for a TV series and worked with Lenny Goldberg. Mm-hmm. Was that a comedy? Was it sitcom? Was it drama?
It was more of a dramedy. I've written a couple comedies, kind of hour-long dramedies for, spec script.
And have they been bought?
No.
Yes, good bitches, once upon a time in a shire far, far away, Miss Ben Shapiro had dreams of making it in the film industry, with his mother being a TV executive, his father being a composer, and his cousin being 90s child star turned bisexual icon Mara Wilson. You'd think everything would fall in place for this little young man. Even though Shapiro shopped his scripts around as much as he could, even a hilarious amount of nepotism that was almost surely fail-proof failed. Maybe it's because he looks like he already makes money by playing solitaire on his phone, and thus began the lamest villain origin story of all time, as Shapiro dedicated the rest of his life and career to smearing Hollywood and the leftist media, convinced that the only reason his scripts weren't picked up is because of a perceived liberal bias in the industry, and not that he's just, a shitty writer. Personally, my villain origin story is when I saw the dead Kennedys endorse Mitt Romney on Twitter.
Alright, calm down, let's not just calm down, catch your heart. You guys, you're the real heroes.
You fucking...
And I was at the DMV when this happened. Nobody suffers like I do. Greetings, my good bitches. The name's Francis, Coke Francis. I'm an editor, comedy writer, drag artist, and I'm here because I bought a fancy new camera for the sole intention of roasting Ben Shapiro in 4K. The Daily Wire boasts an impressive number of talking heads that are also completely devoid of brains, including Uncle Ruckus and drag Candace Owens, that woman from Deadpool with the really nice arms, human jewel pod Matt Walsh, and plenty of other Scooby-Doo villains you've never heard of. And at the helm of this, thing is Miss Shapiro and her partner, Jeremy Boring. Yes, that is actually his last name. Go ahead and laugh. It's hilarious. All of these self-loathing minorities have amassed a fortune by talking about important issues that affect them directly, like who people have sex with who aren't them, or men who wear clothing different from theirs, or, worst of all, facing persecution over literally nothing, aside from, just being douchebags. All of this, of course, is presented with their trademark lack of self-awareness, resulting in some of the best cell phones of the 21st century.
Why is it that a bill banning abortions after a woman has been pregnant for 6 weeks is not a return to the Dark Ages?
My answer is something called science. Now back to my question to you. You purport to be an objective journalist. You as a journalist are proceeding to call one side of the political aisle ignorant, barbaric, and sending us back to the Dark Ages. Why don't you just say that you're on the left?
Mr. Shapiro, if you only knew how ridiculous that statement is, you wouldn't have said it. So let's move on.
I've yet to know of too many conservatives, which is where you put yourself, who are funny.
I mean, I utterly disagree with that. I think there can be conservatives who are funny. Liberals may not find them funny. I mean, okay, Ann Coulter for conservatives is funny.
That depends, because you're using politics as the form of their humor.
Bill Cosby is relatively conservative.
Today.
One of Shapiro's talking points is about how my community demands special treatment, yet he's the reason restaurants are still required to have booster seats. Most recently, their obsession with gay sex and other people's genitals manifested itself in Matt Walsh's newest documentary, which you might have heard of, and actually features an interview with a lovely trans activist I knew back in college who I'm sure they shit on for absolutely no reason, other than to just be transphobic shitbirds. Now, I'm not here to give my opinion on What is a Woman because I haven't actually seen it. I've also never been hit by a truck, but I know it would be a way more fun time than watching the triggered ramblings of someone I'd like to launch into the ozone layer. Remember that kid who constantly bullied you for being gay but never got punished for it? Then as soon as you said something clever in return, they would cry and tattle on you? This is him now. Feel old yet? After raking in millions from cringy attempts and subsequent failures to offend people, it has now allowed Miss Thing to follow her dream of making movies. Real movies. Like, they made legitimate movies, but apparently Ben was just as surprised as we were, so he actually got in front of a camera and bragged about them being real movies. I'm not fucking with you. Spoiler alert, they're just as bad as you think they are. And today's video will be the first installment of a multi-episode series of me reviewing Daily Wire films. And, of course, shitting on Ben Shapiro. Hope you've got your pointed sticks ready because we're going on a witch hunt and a roast. But before we do, if you are a fan of watching a very tired drag queen talk about nerd shit forever, I ask that you please write a screenplay and pitch it to a Hollywood bigwig. Depending on who that bigwig is, they might just start unzipping their pants while telling you they know one way for you to get your screenplay produced, and that's when you catch them by surprise by unzipping your pants and dick slapping those like and subscribe buttons as hard as you can. It works like a charm, trust. The film we're looking at today is Shut In, helmed by Disturbia director DJ Caruso. Now, I know some of you will be like, but Francis, why are you giving the Daily Wire more attention than they deserve? Aren't you spending your money on their streaming site? First off, I'd like to start by thanking today's sponsor, Torrent. Second off, you're right, it is giving them more attention than they deserve. But you, my good bitches, also deserve two things. A, to know that these shit shows exist, and B, to watch the meanest video I've made in a minute. Humanity has an unending craving for bloodlust and always has, and I know that's why you're here today. I know that better than anyone. I've been doing this for a little over a year now. If you haven't figured out that you're watching videos made by a literal supervillain, that's on you. So with Shut In, we start with a plethora of shots of apples, the first of many more to come. You see, in this movie's quest to be a radical act of godsploitation, they make sure to hit you over the head with as much religious imagery and symbolism as possible within the span of a lengthy Sunday Mass. That being said, I'm bringing back an old friend. Roll out the apple counter. By the way, those shots weren't like scattered throughout the movie. I just showed you the 7 consecutive shots of apples that this movie opens with. I will say though, if nothing else, the cinematography in this movie is pretty solid. Nothing groundbreaking, but commendable nonetheless. You know I'll always give credit where credit's due. Anyway, back to the roasting. The story follows Jessica Nash, a young mother of 2 played by Rainey Qualley, who constantly looks like she's trying not to laugh in like half the scenes she's in. Me and you both, sis. Me and you both. Foreshadowy closet is foreshadowy. Ugh, I can already tell this movie's gonna try and convince me that having children is the right thing to do. Oh, keep in mind, these are the same people who got butthurt over Big Mouth and who think I groom children simply by existing. Some dialogue also reveals that Jessica is a recovering drug addict. This is also proven by her flip phone and her taste for the devil's music a few scenes later. She's trying to fix up this old house so she can sell it, but still has that pesky, foreshadowy closet to clean up still. Good thing there's a crucifix in it though, right? Ooh, and a Bible. God, I keep getting this sinking feeling that something goofy's gonna happen in that closet. Like, the doorstop didn't work on the door, and they keep showing these, like, super menacing shots of it, and the movie is called Shut In. Call me L, but I have a hunch that something's gonna happen with this closet. Are they implying Jesus is the one doing this? Isn't that, like, antithetical to their whole belief system or whatever? Holy shit. They say art is all about subverting expectations and the art of misdirection. I knew something was gonna happen with that closet. I never would have guessed that the janky door would close and she would get locked in. To think I had been shocked by the decapitation scene in Hereditary. Like, that doesn't hold a candle to this. Jessica tries getting her kiddo to open the door, but the kiddo is too concerned with those goddamn apples to be of any help, apparently. Thankfully, her ex-boyfriend Rob shows up and gets her out. So, that means the movie's over, right? No? Fuck. Anyway, Rob is a huge piece of shit who brings over his pedophile friend Sammy for absolutely no reason, and knowing goddamn well that his own children are present. The man playing this average Lancaster resident is Vincent Gallo, a Trump-supporting veteran actor with a fairly impressive and often controversial body of work. Now, let me be very clear. Supporting Trump does not necessarily negate someone's abilities as an artist. James Woods is a Trumper, but is there anybody else who could have played Hades like he did? Gary Oldman gives such a sympathetic performance as Sirius Black that it's easy to forget that he wants all my rights taken away. Separate the art from the artist, as they say. But this begs the question, does Vincent Gallo's talent also negate him suing Facebook, selling his own semen on the internet, telling Roger Ebert that he has, quote, the physique of telling Roger Ebert that he has, quote, the physique of a sorry. Oh my god, I hate that I'm laughing at this. You know, I laugh at the worst shit. Telling Roger Ebert that he has, quote, the physique of a slave trader, which, as you just saw, I laughed kind of hard at. That, my good bitches, is for you to decide. I don't make the rules here, I just think them up and write them down. Anyway, pedophile is pedophile, and walks around the way someone who's never done drugs thinks a drug addict walks around. To be fair though, Gallo is genuinely creepy in this role, if only the rest of the movie was on his level. Rob's actor is trying so hard to match that energy, but he's about as intimidating as a tweaked out Home Depot employee. It speaks volumes when a Trumper who sells his jizz on the internet is the best part of something. So, Rob tries to compensate for that by throwing Jessica back in the closet while her kid watches with zero reaction. If only she could have seen her mom get literally stigmatized. At least it'll pair nicely with that crucifix and Bible we saw earlier. Jesus-y imagery is Jesus-y. Fuck it, this counts. Fuck it, this counts too. God damn it. Either Jessica is a true badass or Rainey Qualley is busy thinking about apple butter because she does not react to this Outlander level wound in her palm. She considers consuming the contents of the goodie bag Rob left her, but not with the J-Man watching. And the main reason she can't get out is because her stupid child is stupid. If this is The Wire's advertisement for being pro-life, which, given the amount of Jesus imagery and goddamn apples, is probably their stance, they're doing a real bang-up job with it. Finally, her kid figures it out and gives Jessica a metal screwdriver, which she then uses to dig into the floor, not the door, made of wood. That's much easier to chip away at with a metal instrument, and is the way to actually get out of the closet. You stupid bitch. But ruh-roh, Sammy's back. Maybe Jessica can throw a jar of apple butter at him. That always seems to get her out of a jam. As successful as Vincent Gallo is at being creepy, his dialogue is so cartoonishly evil that I can't help but laugh at a situation in which I should not be laughing. Why is this movie making me laugh at a man who wants to assault a child? I thought these people were leading the crusade against that. So far, The Wire is 0 for 2 on propagandizing their audience. So Jessica prevents him from hurting the kids by bribing him with the meth that Rob gave her earlier, and gives him the old J-Man treatment by driving that screwdriver right through his hand. This actually could have been super cool if they didn't keep cutting back to the crucifix behind her. It's like going to that fun fair that your church would put on every Labor Day, and then just when you think you're having a good time, you're like, oh yeah, we're at a church. Gay. Apparently, the one work of fiction that everyone recognizes stigmata from has to be constantly referenced here because, I mean, what if you didn't know that's what this movie was referencing? How else would you be able to enjoy the only exciting part of this movie that's only halfway over? Oh fuck. This movie's only halfway over. Whoops-a-daisicles! Sammy just yoinked Jessica's kid, and even though he threatens to assault her if Jessica doesn't un-Jesus his hand, instead she grabs a bottle of liquor, pours it on his hand, and throws a lit match on it. Yay! It appears as though Sammy is dead, although I low-key wish he wasn't, because that would mean the only entertaining part of this movie has been 86'd. You can tell the people in this movie have never even done a marijuana in their entire lives, lest that make them gay or whatever they think drugs do. They're right, they do make you gay. Because Jessica is all but ready to snort this meth like a different drug you snort. You know the one. We share a name. Unless you can snort meth? I wouldn't know. I've never done meth. My expertise ends at cocaine. Sorry. I also share a name with a guy who's really into this book that makes Jessica reconsider doing drugs wrong. Seriously, every time something cool happens in this movie, it's immediately followed up by a fucking lecture from Dare. We get a long ass scene of Jessica reading passages in the Bible, which is stuffed with money for some reason, and then everything comes full circle. The 16 shots of apples earlier, those were intentional. Those had a deeper meaning, a biblical meaning. Of course, the apples, the crucifix, the Bible, the stigmata, oh my God, it all makes sense now. How did I not see this coming? Like I said, this movie is all about subverting expectations. And just when you think it couldn't get any deeper, a teary-eyed Jessica finds a recipe for something in that Bible. I'll let you guess what it is. Either way, she still does to that Bible and crucifix what I would currently like to do to my brain and computer. I'm sorry. God damn, is this girl a rancher? She is still having zero reaction to these Outlander hands. But check it, she made it out. Unfortunately, we haven't seen the last of these apples or Sammy. Just as she's about to get everyone out, Sammy yoinks the kiddos again, and Jessica keeps a healthy distance from him as he holds a fucking knife to her dumb baby's throat. And, of course, Vincent Gallo is slaying here. So after all these cool shots of Jessica breaking through ceilings and stabbing pedophiles and breaking open her car window with a brick, surely she is gonna be the one to finish off Sammy, right? No? We just had to give this victory to notorious shithead Rob, who has no redemption arc in the long run? The guy who caused all of this shit in the first place and never learns a lesson? Look, Wire, I get it. Women can be badasses, as long as they don't kill anyone. Always leave the most satisfying part of vengeance to the men who deserve nothing but death themselves. Jessica might be a badass, but goddammit, she's still a lady. And a mom. There's nothing mom-like about defending your kids from predators in the most effective way possible. Luckily, this movie actually made a payoff for all these Apple setups that doesn't have something to do with the Bible, because Jessica makes Rob an apple butter and meth jelly sandwich. He ODs because he's a little bitch-ass lightweight, and before he finally snuffs it, he tries to get Jessica on his level by pointing a gun at her. But who needs guns when you have windows? You know what they say, the only thing that can stop a bad guy with a window is a good guy with a window. Finally, we cut to some time later and, god damn it, knock it off! Jesus Christ! Stop! Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay, after getting pelted with more apple shots and ham-fisted symbolism with Jessica cutting away the rotten part of the apple, even though, you know, you have to throw the whole thing away because apples are fruit, not fucking people, and I'm sure this was the metaphor this movie was trying to make, it's revealed that Jessica stayed in the house where 2 people were murdered and has started her new apple butter business with her mom's apple butter recipe and is turning some domestic goddess looks that she shines, yes, an apple on. Oh, and in case you forgot, here's the apple butter recipe her mom gave her that we literally just saw a few minutes ago. And with that, the movie is finally over. You know that scene in Wizard of Oz where Dorothy and the gang get assaulted by creepy tree men who throw apples at them? It was a lot scarier than whatever this movie was. What's interesting about this film, and all the Daily Wire films for that matter, is that they don't feel like cash grabs per se. Not for the masses anyway. Screenwriting and producing are things that apparently Shapiro has genuinely wanted to do. And to be honest, there aren't really any moments in this movie that make us imagine the producers being like, we're gonna make so much fucking money with this, Jim. Which is ironic, because Ben Shapiro was definitely that kid who took junior achievement way too seriously. And yet, it still has that same energy as the episode of South Park where Cartman starts a Christian rock band because of its reliably gullible audience. Cartman does it for money, yes, but he mainly does it to win a bet against Kyle. And the latter is what these Wire films absolutely reek of. A decade-long bet that Shapiro could make it in Hollywood one day, so long as he panders to a demographic that he knows will suck and swallow whatever he presents them, and release those movies on his own streaming platform. If these are, indeed, real movies, why couldn't they get a mainstream distribution? Did they try and fail? Did they assume no one would touch them because Shapiro attached his name to it, like that kid you would always try and ditch on field trips? Something doesn't add up here. But of course, that's not what The Wire claims. They insist that these films are being produced because of the lack of conservative voices in Hollywood, that they're fighting the woke agenda and cancel culture, and are constantly lamenting over being silenced, even though they never seem to shut the fuck up. I do agree that one's political views should not be grounds to blacklist somebody in the industry. And that's why we should commend Shapiro for showing all the other shower drain dwelling ferrets that they too could make it in showbiz someday. The people behind Shut In are clearly aware of what does and doesn't work in basic filmmaking principles. It isn't exactly accurate to call it a ripoff or a discount of others like it. And DJ Caruso is a pretty accomplished director, but there's something just off about it. And in trying to pinpoint exactly what it is, I've only come to one conclusion, and you might not like it. Or you will. I'm gonna say it anyway. That's something they supposedly vehemently support. The bottom line is that true conservative principles and creativity are antithetical to each other. And by true conservatism, I do not mean criticizing the left. That's something we all should do when necessary, including those of us on the left. I'm saying that true conservative principles, the ones that uphold institutions that historically disenfranchise minorities, promote censorship, and try to control every aspect of people's lives, aka fascism, are inherently at war with what makes entertainment actually entertaining. Evolution. Look, if you think The Honeymooners is still funny in 2022, more power to you. But let's be real here. The acceptable entertainment during times when religious and conservative principles reign supreme over legislation and culture is not what most people want in the 2020s. Times will always change, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worst. Regardless, there will always be people kicking and screaming to go back to a time where they felt more comfortable. And that goes for any religious or political affiliation. Shut In isn't a ripoff. It's an artsy reflection of a new kind of conservative dogma in 2022. The absolute obsession with trying to offend the left and the subsequent failure. This movie throws everything at you. Drugs, blood, pedophiles, stigmata, apples, so many goddamn apples, and yet it lacks any sort of edge to it. It's a new outlet for them to be like, look, we can be edgy too. Aren't you shocked? Aren't you triggered? The fact is that there's nothing radical or edgy about supporting the establishment or finding power in a mainstream religion that has never been oppressed. For lack of a better word, it's just so uncool. They try to deliver a bite with a denture-less mouth. All of these shocking elements are thrown together with no purpose other than trying to prove a point and own the libs, because everything surrounding them is either painfully boring or depressingly laughable. The Daily Wire hired a competent director and crew to make a visually coherent film, but they just couldn't stand by and let what could and should have been an apolitical and a-religious film be exactly that, even though they're the ones who are always like, why does everything have to be so political now? Same people who probably stopped watching The Boys Season 3 for the same reason, I'm sure. To be fair though, this is far from the worst movie I've ever seen. It certainly didn't send me into a state of pure rage like Paperman, and it wasn't cringily unfunny like An American Carol, though I'm sure the people at The Wire would love that one. Shut In actually does have valid merits of filmmaking. It's visually appealing. The story isn't particularly original, but it's fine. Vincent Gallo was genuinely creepy as his character, despite his unintentionally hilarious dialogue and, you know, being a Trumper who sells his own cum online. He was definitely the shining star in this, and other critics of this movie have unanimously agreed on that. That being said, the movie just kept getting stupider by the minute. Nothing cool could happen without some moral buzzkill to follow it up with. The eye rolls and laughs that Shut In induced came from, truly, the Daily Wire's inability to not stick its flaccid Sunday school dick into it. But hey, better that than Ben Shapiro's wife's P-word, about which he bragged that it's apparently drier than a British comedy. Speaking of which, the clip from earlier where Shapiro mentions his failed dramedy has prompted me and many others to wonder, what was this dramedy script about? How much of it, if any, was recycled and repurposed into The Wire's current films? Was it actually Shapiro's politics that got him blacklisted from the industry, or was it just a staggering lack of self-awareness and creativity displayed in his writing? Let's play a game, guys. In the comments below, tell me what you think Ben Shapiro's dramedy was about. A logline alone is fine. You're welcome to go into more detail if you want. Whoever comes up with the best one will get pinned to the top of the comments section and will be featured in my next video. But for now, as promised, here are the winning comments for my last two videos. First off, Joshua Hitchcock says, I love the Bobby Worst outfit. You got my reference. Brandon Rogers is on some king shit, and fun fact, I wish I was him. Second off, Texas Rigger says, I'll be honest, I'm not a superhero fan, so I've not really had any interest in The Boys, but based on your enthusiasm, I am going to give it a shot. I only watched the first few minutes of your video until you warned about spoilers, but I promise I'll come back to it. In the meantime, it's getting a like anyway. Keep up the good work. Okay, I never thought I'd say this, but I'm actually so glad you clicked off my video before it was too late. But yes, for those of you who are skeptical about The Boys because you're sick to death of superheroes, that is exactly why the show and the comics were made in the first place. Trust, nobody hates soups more than Garth Ennis. If you're burnt out on the superhero genre and you hate capitalism, then The Boys is the show for you. Can you believe it? Amazon has so much money, they made a show just for me. Like I said earlier, this is the first video of what I'm planning to be a whole series of these, so if there is another Wire film you would like me to review, please let me know. If you just can't wait for that and you'd like to hear more of my takes on conservative entertainment right now, I'll link a video in the description where I talk about conservatism and its clashes with satire. But before you do, I ask that you please write a screenplay and pitch it to a Hollywood bigwig. Depending on who that bigwig is, they might just start unzipping their pants while telling you that they know one way for you to get your screenplay produced, and that's when you catch them by surprise by unzipping your pants and dick slapping those like and subscribe buttons as hard as you can. If you would like to follow me on other social media, you can find me on Instagram at QueenCokeFrancis, and I finally caved and just joined TikTok, and my name is the same on there at QueenCokeFrancis. And as always, until next time, howdy-ho.